my good friend, Professor Attaullah Shah. He is a Vice Chancellor of Karakoram International University, where you can come and you can do skiing also. So in Pakistan, we have everything. You can go to desert, you can ski, you can have good time. So that's the reason I thought that he should introduce you, Professor Attaullah Shah.
Actually, we are here to see some of the programs which this university is going to start and be a part of National Technology Council. I was part of the team to review, and I'm really, first of all, very inspired by the kind of interventions which Dr. Mukhtar has been doing in this university, because I could see this place 2 years back or 3 years back, which was just like a desert. But today, I was really inspired to see the kind of good things they have started, and National Technology Council will certainly help them to further strengthen, to become a role model for the technology schools. I welcome Professor Klaus for his wonderful presence here. And I have gone through your very extensive CV with 25 years of very rich experience as a professor, as a mentor, and as a technology master. And I think this lecture would produce some new knowledge for us and learning for us. Thank you very much. I think over to Professor Klaus.
Professor, all is for you. Steer us.
I hope I'm able to. Thank you very much. But just as we spoke briefly about skiing, I share you something which is not on my piece of paper. A long time ago, I was Bavaria's youngest ski teacher. So that is a nice situation. But now to the serious part. What you see in the background, which is still for some reason here, is no bad introduction, because together with my good friend from Kuala Lumpur and Kota Baru, Professor Raja Susana Raja Kasim, we are collaborating since 10 years together and have done a lot of things together. And she has created an initiative in Malaysia from which this poster in the background is coming, inviting young people, those who are still at school, too young to go to university, to research, to find ways, entrepreneurial ways, which are of importance for the future of all of us, for our future development. And if you look, for example, into the recent developments, it is a very, very interesting story, because many of these apps and many of the digital developments were not made by corporations or researched at universities. They were developed like it was in the 1980s with Bill Gates and his colleagues, in a room, in a living room, in a children's room, where they created apps which have solved problems which were much more better solved and more effectively solved than it was done in a corporate environment. And the research, why that is so, came up with interesting findings, because one of the big things is these kids, they are free of everything. They have no pressure. They do not do it because they must prove themselves to remain in the organization for their salary. They are not restrained by any corporate thinking. They are not restrained by any team membership. They just can do what they feel might be good to do. And this way, with this entire freedom, they come up with solutions which we are ourselves finding very difficult in all these constraints where we must prove ourselves, where we must deliver results to somebody or someone. And this way, one of these things which I want to stress at the very beginning is that it cannot be early enough to talk and collaborate with this young generation and give them opportunities where we all, wherever we are, whoever we are, can catch ideas and views which we will never find in an institutional or institutionalized way. For example, at our new Nyangani Virtual University, we have created the position of a junior researcher, where we invite children to join our research teams. They can research with us, they can research together individually, and depending on their findings, they can collect study experiences. And if they have good findings, we credit these as a reduction of their future studies. And this is something which makes things very interesting, because it gives them the opportunity to get faster into the economy. It gives the economy the opportunity to get talent, which is really needed and which knows about things. And we can collaborate in a much broader way than by the formal structure of going to school, making a baccalaureate or similar to be able to join a university, which might exclude more than it gives to us. And this is a very different thinking, which we find is of big importance. But correctly, I am now, what I have prepared to you is something, as I was asked, which I accepted with great pleasure to be here, is about the higher education and the digital skills, the challenges which we have in the 21st century. When you go back 20 years, exactly 20 years, there was a very exciting and new way of thinking when Prensky differentiated us into two groups of people. The one were the digital natives, those born in time where digital was already all around. And then those like me, and many of us here as well, who were digital immigrants, those who have lived in a different world and learned to be then in a digital world. What we understood as something new, as something exciting, sometimes even a little bit strange and bizarre, those younger generation people were born with. They knew it from their very first day, and it is not a rarity. If you go shopping into a supermarket, you see the little children or the babies sitting there, given a smartphone with little tiny movies for that the mom can do their shopping without that the baby is crying or giving her some pressure. So they are working from the very first day with tools which we have never made. This is of some advantage, but it is also of some disadvantage, because as research has found, the fine motoric of our behavior, of our being, is suffering a lot. Sports is suffering a lot. So it's all always the same, all comes at a cost. So what we need to understand for our entire world is that we are going through a new form and a new way. We have started with various levels of industrial developments. We have gone from individual rural crop and farming to then the first trade connections by sea, by land roads. We have seen how the railway has developed more and more, and then the planes. It was a gradual progress which improved the situation of the living and gave income to people who had struggled to have money before or to gain enough money before. And that is exactly what my speaker before stressed. There are so many people now in Punjab who are earning money, which they did not before. And that is definitely progress. And when we speak about women, then we are speaking about empowerment. And that is something which is important, because we need all of it and we need everything of it. Later then, we had the industrial revolutions. If you go through the literature, some say we had 5, others say we had only 2. It doesn't matter. Each time when we had an industrial revolution, it was a radical change. It was some type of chaos. think about the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century with the first type of automation, when people had to leave their rural countryside and go into cities, urbanization in the first step, urbanization 1.0, if you like. And the situation was, of course, that job entrance levels started to increase for the first time. You needed to learn about figures. You needed to learn about reading. And there is a very, very interesting situation. I was consulting with the German Agency of Labor some 10 years ago. And what they told me is that the big problem which we are facing now and in the future is that we will always have a level of unemployed people who can simply never find any work because they are not able and capable, for which reason ever, to meet the entrance criteria, the level of qualification and knowledge to get a job. And we see it more and more. And in the recent times, when we see what has happened in the past 10 years, then we see how things have drifted apart. You have these many, many people who are working as warehouse workers in the big Amazon warehouses, or as the drivers of the goods driving around under high pressure to deliver these things. And then we have those others who are organizing the situation. I remember very much going through factories where you found a lot of people who were doing this, who were doing that. Okay, there were all some form automation belts and conveyor belts and whatever you may imagine, but there were many jobs. Some years later, around 1990s, you found even in the big manufacturing halls, few people. You found some people who had these big devices in their hand. And in these big devices, they just looked at the control sectors. I like this example of the Mexican concrete manufacturer Cemex very, very much. The biggest fear of any Cemex manager around the world is that their CEO, who is very good at that, realizes and recognizes that their production or other operation is not running at a level which it is supposed to be, and that this regional or national plant director gets a call from Mexico City, and they tell him, hey, look what is going on in your factory. It's not working well. So you see how the situation of control and of reduction of physical work has increased. Now we have the big industrial disruption which is coming up, and which we already heard about by my appreciated predecessor, Mr. Ali Salman, artificial intelligence. We are now talking about disruption, and we are talking now about a mismatch of skills and competencies. So many educational institutions around the world are still today teaching things which are certainly very, very interesting, very much explaining. Unfortunately, they do not help very much to solve problems and to find income for people. And that is what a national society is based on. So we have two worlds which are confronted with each other. We have on the one hand these employers who know that they need a different skill set now, and the employers, the same employers, who do not know how this skill set must look like. And here I'm coming back to my consultancy with the National Agency of Labor in Germany, who has simply told me the biggest problem when they speak to employers looking for skilled people is to understand and learn what these people really want. They told me you speak to them and you have so often the impression that they have less than no clue which type of employee they are looking for. So how should we provide them with people they are expecting if they do not even know themselves what they are expecting? The other point is that we have very many vocational education, which is training people for jobs which are simply disappearing. It is not vocational, if you like, but I was talking to a student from Latvia 10 years ago, so long. She was the daughter of an Air Force pilot and wanted to do something in aviation. And then we came up with this research for her thesis. Why not investigating what people would think about the planes which are not having any pilot anymore, which are only having in the cockpit computer systems? It's absolutely easy. The technology exists. GPS exists. The biggest problem for any air crash is pilots. So it's much safer and better. She made this investigation and came up that people do not bother anyhow about the technological safety and security, just the idea and the thinking that there is nobody sitting in the cockpit and driving or flying this plane is a nightmare, and that they would never ever enter and join a flight without any pilot. And this is very important. The technology exists, but the psychology rejects. And here we're coming to a first very important factor for our future. And if you see, for example, what often happens is that higher education is learning theory and delivering theory and based on accreditation of programs and a set of accreditations to be a university or higher education institution, which has become absolutely irrelevant because it does not consider what graduates will need to know and must perform in the future. It is not anymore. I know so many institutions where if you go into the whole curriculum, they are teaching and learning about Porter's work, about Kotler's work in economy. Wonderful work, absolute wonderful models which these people have created. And they were, at their time, the best which you could have had. Unfortunately, today, they are all irrelevant. They don't work anymore. We have left this world which they talk about. We are living in a different world, in a fast-paced world. We are living in an international and global connected world. We live in a world in which customers and consumers have a high power of decision. If we realize it or not, it exists. None of these models just thinks about consumers or customers. And that is one problem. And here we are coming to a way and a world which makes things completely different. And therefore, we have machine learning. We have deep learning now. We have the Internet of Things. And we have, most importantly, the digital disruption, which disrupts many, many areas. Look at the fight of the retail against online shops. They are losing more and more. So the digital skills which we must have is operation and application. It is the general use of common technology devices, which must be used with proficiency. And they must be able, these digital natives of today, that we have given them the appropriate tools for the given tasks which they have to do now. And they must have this across the whole learning process. Then it is inquiry and innovation. It is about the collection and the organization and visualization of information with technology programs like virtual reality, artificial reality. And most importantly, it is about problem solving and critical things. How can we think critically and find solutions for the problems which we have? Think e-mobility, electric mobility. Everybody speaks about electric mobility, but it is in the moment a rudimentary element. It is not developed. How can we resolve this? And now we are coming to the point which is most importantly. We speak about digital skills, and we can never forget that we are social beings. It is about a digital citizenship. We must be able, and this is one of the things which you can read across all the world, the social aspect in online and distance studies where students were suffering. So a new way and a socializing way of online communication, collaboration, and as well research must be developed. We must still be able, even if like now we are sitting thousands of kilometers or miles apart, we must have the feeling it is not the same as if we would sit together in a room and shake hands. And therefore, the World Economic Forum has developed the Higher Education Model 4.0, which I'm a big, big fan, and all in our university, which is the research finding of an answer to the COVID learning disruption from professors from 4 continents, Asia, Africa, USA, and Europe. And we have decided that it is about the personalized learning, a self-paced learning. Some people are faster, some people are less fast. We must give them a lifelong learning experience. It is about the interpersonal skills. We must have and cannot afford to lose our connection and social aspects with our neighbors, with our people. And it is about globalization in education, in skills development, because we are all living on one planet. And the challenge of our climate change is just one which we all, wherever we are in this world and on this planet, must resolve. And it is about innovation and creativity. We must innovate. We must innovate faster, because otherwise we will have very, very deep troubles in 20, 25 years. And when we speak about this development from the little ape, which became the upstanding walking man, well, we have these different types of organization. There were originally little groups, then were little tribes and clans, then we had a village, then we had the cities, then we had the national thinking, and then now we have the globalization. And so it is important to have global citizenship skills. And our digital ways are one way. Just imagine, COVID had hit us 15 years earlier. Without all these opportunities, without high and fast-paced fiber cables, we would be dead. We would be isolated in our national situation. Today, we found ways, home office, national, international virtual meetings, things which were very, very weak at this time. And so we have the situation of new digital native, the one who is not just born in these days of computers and respective devices. It is the one who is also influenced and driven by social media interaction, who is communicating. Even we all know this who have children. You have your children sitting on the same couch or on the same sofa, and they are talking to each other by their mobile phone instead of speaking to each other. And we have the new ways of artificial intelligence and artificial augmented reality, virtual reality. It is the full automation which has the risk of socially disruptive perspectives if we are not careful. And it may come with an environmental protective situation. The circular economy, which is coming up and which is a most important aspect. We are in a situation that we must combine our human social needs with digital skills, allowing us to bridge and bring together two worlds, the digital world and the social world, which are presently much separated. And fact is, that we are at our university at least very, very convinced that it will be a non-linear outcome. And this is a systemic change which we have always. And systems theory says if you have a disruptive environment, and COVID made it very disruptive, then you have non-linear situation. And therefore, the Industry 4.0, which many are favoring, is something of the yesterday. If we speak about the digital and the other skills, it is more than digital skills we need, is the Industry 5.0, which the European Commission has combined very attractively. It is about the empowered worker. It is about the benefits for workers and for society. And we must revisit our existing value chains. If you look around the shortages, which we have all around, whether it is building materials, whether it is chips, we cannot allow and afford a second time that our value chains and our distribution chains are disrupted the same way as we had in the last 2 years. We must learn and make in a digital form these things much better. So there is Industry 5.0, not just automation, efficiency, effectiveness, and that to a level which is higher. No, it is about the situation of collaboration in a peaceful way, which allows to develop parallel to it a new way and form of social world. So the output is we have graduates which are perfect in analytical skills, programming, can translate complex algorithms in sophisticated processes. But for what, please? If I ask artificial intelligence, can it do it faster, better, and more efficiently? So that is not everything. You can be a fantastic mathematician. You can be a fantastic modeler. You can be fantastic in any form. But think about what artificial intelligence will be able to do, and this very fast. The problem which we must answer and where we must really think about in great depth is, what do we want? Is it a new system which is coming, which is performing like a machine? So artificial intelligence tells us what we must do to survive? Or do we want to remain an organism and create an ecosystem which is coming from biology and whose definition says it is the combination and the connection of the living and the non-living? And that is important to me, an ecosystem, combining the living, us, with the non-living, our, for example, computer world, for a mutual beneficial outcome. And these skills are, to me, as the essence for the future. And to conclude my thoughts about the digital skills era for the future it is about a slightly changed CSR. It is about computer science reality, which is there, which will not go away, which will develop faster, further, and into many more directions than we can imagine today. Plus, what we need, a collective social responsibility, which considers nations, corporations, and individual citizens the same way. Either we survive together, or we will not be able to master what digital technology will throw on us. And therefore, skills for the digital era must be a combined situation, which is considering what the technology can do for us, can do with us, and how we can remain what we are. Social people and people who are needing social aspects. Never forget, the biggest complaint in the disruptive environment of COVID on disrupted learning was the lack of socialization and social possibilities. And that should be our guideline and our light to follow much further and much deeper. So much about my thoughts. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for listening. I hope you found it a little bit interesting.
Okay, it's so fascinating and so beautiful. You put us in real trouble, let me tell you. You know, now I start thinking, let's stop at this IR4 and IR5, use it just for making good social relation and go for this collective social responsibility instead of other things.
This is, let me be honest. If you consider it, what is one part of it? You know things in your area of the world which we in Europe, for example, do not know, because your entire continent, your entire national structure is very different to ours. That is nothing about good and bad. It is about a fact. So you can provide us with some very important things which we have missed so far. We can give you some things which we have and which you could use very well. And if you put both together, then you create something which is synergetic. And this means 1 + 1 is more than 2. And that is what we should think about. It is about the global knowledge, the globalized knowledge, and to think about ways how we can improve our situation. If we are so much talking about, as we have consciously placed our university in Zimbabwe, which is one of the poorest countries in the world, and still suffering from its not so nice past under Mugabe. But if you consider, what do they have, for example? They lack catastrophic energy, electricity. So often their electric system breaks down because there is not enough water to bring up enough power for the energy, and the internet goes down. But they have sun. They have sun more or less 24 hours a day. Is exaggerated. How can we together work and bring this sun energy, not only about a region of Zimbabwe, about a region of Africa, or you in Asia? There are so many places where the sun is burning out. How can we make energy from it, which is green energy? That is something we must do together, and not listen to the Exxon, BP, and Shell, and so on, whose only interest is how can we sell to the highest price what we have.
Mr. Ali Salman, his organization is training people, as you also alluded, in artificial intelligence in very earlier phase.
Absolutely, yes.
What we foresee their future in the higher education. So how we connect the dots over there, you know?
It is absolutely important that we connect the artificial intelligence with our lives, and that we use the opportunities which the artificial intelligence is offering us. There was it 3 years ago, maximum 4, the discussion and the big laughter when somebody propagated very soon lecturers and professors can be replaced by artificial intelligence. And everybody said, oh, never, ever. No, artificial intelligence can do very much in this area and in this field. And here we can what Mr. Ali Salman and his very, very remarkable initiative does, bring faster pace into it. We, all of us, can teach, let me say, so and so many students per year. If you use artificial intelligence as a lecturer, they can teach as many as you like. If you have a library and you have 10 books, when the 10 books are used by students, then the 11th student is not able to get it until someone returns it. When we are filled up as professors, as lecturers, then nobody else can go. If you use artificial intelligence as a lecturer, you can send even 1,000 more. And this is where your initiative is coming together. The next thing, which I consider as very important and what we have introduced into our curricula or syllabus, is in many important modules, we are having the traditional, if you like, academic lecturer who is accompanied by an advisor from the industry. So the industrial advisor supports the academic lecturer to give it a practical and practice-oriented touch. And this industrial advisor is also setting up little tasks for the students, which they must deliver, while the academic lecturer is seeing that the students can explain it by the theory so that they can grasp the bigger picture. And this combination gives, let me say, a way, not the way, but one way to get out of what my colleague, Professor André Deval, the high performance organization expert, says, the mismatch of graduates and employers. Imagine, I met a student who was studying 6 semesters, 3 long years at Freiburg University, which is one of the very good ones in Germany. And then he had to make an internship in a company, and frustrated, he stopped the internship after 4 weeks, because he realized that he knows a lot, but he is unable to do anything. He threw his 3 years overboard and started at a private university, which is very closely collaborating with industry, the entire studies again. And when I met him, he was in semester 3, and he said, now I know and now I can do. But 3 years lost at very high expense.
Dr. Asghar Hashmi Professor Asghar Hashmi has a question. And
yes,
Professor, my neighbor has a question also. So let's see. Okay, Hashmi Saab, you go ahead, so I can convince my neighbor to wait.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Klaus, and thank you very much.
Please go ahead. It's just recording, I think.
Okay. So it's very important and very nice talk from Professor Klaus. I appreciate that. It's very interesting and informative. So it's comprising and covering a lot of topics for the COVID era and how to go forward for the next future of the education. So Professor Klaus, I want to know that you know that now it's an era of quantum computing. So what do you think that how it will be affecting this very important change, and important means you can say that's revolution in computing and education, because everything will be changed. The conventional computer will definitely go off, and this quantum computing will be taking over all these things. And you know that it's the world is all over comprising of 10 to the power 53 particles, but this quantum computing can understand and can make the arrangement, make the some control of about 10 to the power 77 and more than 10 to the power 27, 10 to the power 77 particles, which are making the whole world. So it is supposed that this quantum computing will be making a lot of changes, and how our education will be changed accordingly.
To be very honest, I am no technology expert. I'm coming from the area of strategy and economy. I'm an economist, and in general, my research is split into innovation, especially radical innovation, and systems theory. And the situation which we are facing is that we must be able to connect, to disconnect what is presently going on and reconnect it accordingly. When you speak about the affecting education and higher education, then we have realized and researched a big problem. The biggest obstacles which we found in many countries are found in two specific areas. It is the resistance of the teachers and lecturers who are unable or not willing to use modern technology, of which kind ever. They still want to present all their learning stuff in form of, how you call it, PowerPoint presentations, overloaded, and. And the second point is where we have found a huge problematic is the institutionalization of accreditation and learning environment by the political side. So if you are a university, you must do this and that. For example, in Austria, where our second headquarters is, you can only become a university if you have a physical library. So please explain somebody to me that why you need a physical library. For what? You need a library. Students must have access to the knowledge. Students must have access to certain books, to certain papers. Which way is of absolutely zero importance. And here is the big problem. All what we may consider and see as an opportunity forward is, first of all, confronted with the dilemma of a different thinking in those who have the knowledge and must transmit it and transform it to students' knowledge. And secondly, we must find an environment of the political side which eventually and finally renovates a totally antiquated system. Our higher education system has not changed for centuries. We are still doing the same thing our predecessors did 500 years ago. We adjusted the content, but we did not modernize. And if you see the real distance learning, which in most places exists today, it's just a translated minor innovative form, marginal innovation, because it translates what was or is physical into some form of distance learning, but only to the extent which is unavoidable. And here we come to the same problem again. What we can do with technology, how we can develop technology is fascinating, and that you know much, much better than we or I will ever learn and know. The problem is, how can we do it?
Yeah, so now there is my neighbor turn.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Klaus.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Professor Klaus. We established the Artificial Intelligence Lab a couple of months back, and we are trying to improve the quality of our research in the disaster mitigation in the Gulf events in the north of Pakistan. We have typical disasters like floods, Gulf events. We have the earthquakes. And there is high emphasis also that we start with specific degrees in the artificial intelligence or a major in the artificial intelligence. But what I don't know that this digitalization of the curriculum is compromising the social and cultural integrity of the societies. What I understand that, for example, the North has to be the most cordial place, but now when people are coming to these interventions or these distortive technologies, we are losing a lot of the cultural and social values of the society. Now,
Yes.
the biggest challenge is that, and again, will we call it a degree or a skill? Because the degree is not having only the skills, there are attributes, there are your cognitive level of enhancement, because you have to be a responsible citizen of society. But what I understand now, that the high emphasis on skills and artificial intelligence and machine learning and e-commerce, we are pushing the new generations to a kind of technologically robotic people who will be having no social and cultural understanding. And at the end of the day, we will have a highly distorted generation, which will be maybe earning some money for the socioeconomic development, but we will not be having the kind of family structure, social structure, and cultural structure which we have today in this part of the world. So what is your take on that?
It is exactly my biggest fear in this area. I could not agree more with you. Please don't laugh when I tell you that as a young man, I have seen a movie where you have a wonderful, beautiful future city somewhere in the future at this time. And people were living very nicely and very well. You only saw this thing. And then when the picture widened, you saw the big, big wall, which was armored and with heavy defenses and soldiers on it. And so when they widened again, you had a huge, huge surrounding environment of slums, where those people who could not match the skill set which was requested at this future type to get a job. And without a job, they could not get any money or make their living. And to be honest, that is something which is so often in my mind. And as if there is something which I have realized in all these future films or movies from the past, even Orwell, what they could imagine was only half of what really happened. If you take 1984, for example. And this is where we have the biggest danger, that we create a society in which there will be the chosen few and the many, many others. And what I said about my talks to the German Agency of Labor is exactly that. The level of people is there, and now the situation is increasing and stepping up. You need more and more human intelligence to get into a situation to get a decent job. And that is what many do not have. Think about all these workers who are now working in Amazon warehouses, to just take one example. You do not need them in reality in the future. That can all be automated. That's very easy. The drivers in the lorries who are delivering these things to us, excuse me, please, they can be replaced by automated cars. And they already exist. They are tested. It is no joke. Amazon has applied for a patent for a flying warehouse. It is flying over the sky with all the things and is delivering the parcels by drones to your store. You see, it is somehow like a science fiction story, but it's not out of reality and not out of thinking. And Amazon would not apply for a patent if they do not have already something which makes this work. And so what do we do with these people? And exactly where? When we forget to integrate the people, then we will have a problem. A big problem. So we must combine our high technological skills with which way ever delivered serious social collaborative models for that people can socialize.
Anybody else has a question? Okay, looks like, that everybody is scared. So,
not more than I.
But you know what? Basically, most of the people who are on the screen. They are employee of the National Skill University, and we are relaying it on the YouTube also. So just, we are looking forward, as we discussed earlier also, once your university get established, we will start looking for if the Amazon can fly the things. So why not education become universal also at that level? So some type of collaborative efforts between Pakistani institution and your setup, which is a very beautiful. Thank you for sending me all the brochures and stuff like that. That is so exciting.
And I can tell you, we are officially existing. We are established.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We are fully operational, and we are fully celebrating now our existence. And so we are moving on and trying to find some solutions and to make our contribution to a world which is in change.
Okay. And anything come up for collaboration, for international collaboration? Any model on your side, that
we can,
if it goes out,
Yes, we can absolutely collaborate. I will contact you directly, and we will find a collaborative agreement. We are already collaborating with University Malaysia Kelantan in Kota Baru. We are also collaborating already with the University Melaka, and we are entering a collaboration with the University of Western Romania in Timișoara. So we are already building up and doing some great jobs, and I will be very, very happy to be in touch with you, which we can do the next day.
That will be fascinating. That will be fascinating. Thank you very much for sparing time, and thank you all who are listening to us. It's quite a fascinating presentation, but it's a real...
sorry, sir. Dr. Madhya has a question.
Dr. Madhya, you want to ask? We won't, I think it's a gender matter, so she definitely have to,
yes, absolutely, please.
Dr. Madhya. Okay.
Hello, yeah. Sir. I just wanted to say that it was a very nice presentation, and it's really helpful, and it's good to collaborate. So we hope that we will be hearing soon.
You will definitely, because our slogan is knowledge without borders. And that is what we stand for and what we mean. And this is in any direction. It is providing knowledge, but more than happy to receive knowledge, which we do not have. We are nowhere perfect and know everything. Absolutely not. We want to learn.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that was probably the last one. It's such an intriguing talk. We don't want to stop it, but but it's a really wake-up call. Prof, I think those who are listening to us over here as well as on the YouTube, they should realize that we be good global citizen. Otherwise, the artificial intelligence is coming, and that could be a major issue. Let's pray we keep stay united, we keep stay human and human. So we just keep the respect for each other. Instead of that, the artificial intelligence, these gadgets come and start controlling us. So that will be the toughest time ethically as well as morally also.
That is precisely.
Yeah. You're right. So, but your presentation has really highlighted, it's possible. And it's our turn now because the technology has gone so far. So we should think the way that how we can utilize these technology in the better way. Thank you very much. Thank you for sparing time. So it's almost getting afternoon over here. So, I think your noon is coming. So you might be getting ready for lunch,
That is what we'll do. Thank you very much for having me. And it was a great pleasure.
It's always a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye now.